Welcome to the weather forecast on CIA TV channel. Dear friends, in today's forecast, we'll break down what you need to know about the weather that will affect the United States over the next 7 days. A major change in weather patterns will be taking place in the United States over the next few days, bringing with it a return to significant severe weather in areas such as the northern plains and Midwest. Additionally, the tropics will warm up very quickly over the next few weeks, and a storm or two is possible, and they could impact the United States. And we'll start with what's happening across the country today. However, this won't last long, as we're expecting severe weather to increase significantly over the next few days across the central and northern plains and Midwest. Furthermore, we're expecting even a tropical depression or hurricane to form over the next few days along the east coast. The chances of it forming aren't really high, but if it does, we could be talking about at least some issues anywhere from Georgia all the way up to New England. Back in the southern plains and the southeast, not much activity this morning. Very quiet, very sunny. Today is going to be a warm and hot day, and we're expecting a heat wave to really kick in over the next few days, which will make things a lot warmer. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the timing of severe weather, starting with what's happening today across the northern plains. Around 4 o'clock, we'll have a few storms forming across northeastern Montana and northwestern North Dakota. But the main event probably won't start until about 5 to 6 o'clock. We'll start to see a bunch of storms forming across western North Dakota. There'll probably be a cluster, and then 1 or 2 isolated storms will probably form again just west of Bismarck. And that's when we're expecting the threat of very large hail, some damaging winds, and the potential for a few tornadoes and a strong tornado. By about 8 to 9 o'clock, the storms will probably be more concentrated, so I think this tornado threat won't last long, at least in terms of our strong tornado potential. But I think by about 9 to 10 o'clock, as all of this comes together, we'll continue to see tornadoes within a band of thunderstorms, and that will continue to move across North Dakota. And then, around midnight, those storms will approach areas like Fargo and Grand Forks in far eastern North Dakota. And that could lead to the possibility of a derecho again. Today, it's a 50 to 50 chance of a derecho. At the very least, we'll probably have a severe mesoscale convective system, which means a band of fairly severe thunderstorms. As we get into early Friday morning, this will weaken as it moves toward Duluth in northeastern Minnesota. And then finally, as we get into Friday afternoon, we'll have more severe weather again in the northern plains. So as we head into late Friday, we're looking at more severe weather potential. Back in Nebraska and South Dakota, there's a chance that we'll have a few thunderstorms clustered together, with strong winds, small hail, and the potential for isolated tornadoes. But that's really the main environment around 7 o'clock. I think we'll have a couple of thunderstorms in eastern North Dakota. And assuming those storms stay quiet, we could also be talking about a pretty significant tornado threat. However, it's in hurricane mode and it's clearly a hurricane. We could also have another significant line of storms in that format later Friday night across both Dakotas, and then eventually moving into Minnesota as we head into the late evening and overnight. So again, it's going to be a very severe environment for the next 24 to 48 hours. And Saturday is going to be even more unpredictable in terms of severe weather. What matters is what happens on Friday for our storms. And depending on how far east they move, that will basically mirror what happens on Saturday. But I think we'll at least see some strong winds and scattered large hail throughout the afternoon across Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, and maybe even Illinois. I wouldn't be surprised if we had an increased tornado risk again in southwest Wisconsin for a few hours on Saturday. But again, what matters is what happens on Friday. There will be enough wind shear to produce tornadoes. But again, that's going to happen on Friday. We'll have more details on that in the next forecast, probably tomorrow. And unfortunately, we're going to have a much more severe heat wave across the United States over the next few days. Above average temperatures will also be rolling into the Great Plains and Midwest. And we'll likely see at least a few record-breaking heat waves on both Friday and Saturday before finally a little cooler weather will be rolling into the Midwest and Northern Plains as we head into the weekend. Next week looks no different. We'll have another big heat wave, likely around Thursday or Friday next week, that will make the weather outside look and feel hot. And it's going to be very humid for many of us too. Here's the high temperature we're looking at right now on Friday, with many areas of the Central Plains, including Omaha, Nebraska, likely to hit 110 degrees. With some areas in the Southwest possibly returning to the 120s. That's what we've seen over the past few days, with highs dropping into the 90s and low 100s by the middle of next week. So around Tuesday, and then temperatures will return next weekend, even as far north as Aberdeen in South Dakota, and maybe even back to Fargo in North Dakota. Now, let's talk more about the potential for severe weather over the next few days. And we'll start with today. And we have a higher risk of severe weather in North Dakota, including areas like Bismarck. We also have a small risk from Fargo, North Dakota, back into central Montana, even Aberdeen, South Dakota. And then a negligible threat from the Midwest back into Idaho. The chance of damaging wind gusts this afternoon and evening is even lower. We could be talking about damaging winds of up to 60 to 90 miles per hour over a fairly wide area, so it's definitely going to be a dangerous day in North Dakota. Very large hail is also a big concern, especially from the first supercell storms that come through this afternoon and early evening. And there's a chance for a few tornadoes as well. Additionally, some favorable border interactions could lead to an elevated risk of tornadoes, which does not rule out the possibility of major or severe tornadoes today. Now, as we head into Friday, the severe weather threat continues to move east. We could have a very significant severe weather day on Friday. We have an elevated, but fairly minimal, severe weather risk in northwest Minnesota and also northeast North Dakota, just outside of Aberdeen, South Dakota. A slight risk will be in northeast Nebraska. A marginal threat will also be moving down into Kansas and western Wisconsin, where strong winds are a concern. But the biggest concern on Friday will be very large hail, possibly as large as apples, with a few supercells in the forecast. And there is a good chance of some hail on Friday, assuming the severe weather threat remains at its current level, if not increases in the forecast going forward. And as we head into Saturday, the severe weather threat will continue across the Midwest and Central Plains. There will be a slight risk of severe weather in Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota. Then, a marginal threat will be in the Texas Panhandle, where the biggest concerns will be strong winds and large hail. I think there will be a chance for a few tornadoes as well. But we have two areas that are developing and also Tropical Storm Dexter, which is going to be an additional tropical cyclone. This is going to be a very strong storm and it continues to move out to sea. But this is an area that is developing and it has the potential to become a tropical storm over the next couple of days as it heads toward Bermuda. The chances of it impacting the United States are very low. And this system also has the potential to develop just off the coast of the Carolinas. I also think the chances of it actually becoming a significant hurricane for the United States are very low. However, after August 15th, I do believe that something will form in that area, back into the Lesser Antilles. And if something does form, we could certainly see a threat in the Gulf of Mexico or even back near Florida. And if that does happen, we could have some major problems in the United States because of the warm water temperatures across the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. I think the chances of that happening are low. But I think this is at least a sign that we will start to see tropical storms, if not hurricanes, moving closer to land, especially in the Lesser Antilles and Greater Antilles, and perhaps the United States in the next few weeks. We will continuously update the storm situation in the next news. Please subscribe to the channel to follow. Thank you for watching the news on CIA TV channel.